Chapter 6. Damon was halfway to the cabin when he called home and spoke to Lycell, explaining that he would need a few more days before they could bring Thorn back, but Lycell insisted that he return. They all couldn't be away, especially since there were threats abounding. Because Lycell was eager to disrupt the lives of Wilder and Adrienne, and he figured they had been away long enough, he decided to head out for the cave. The cave had been Wilder's idea, and because it was set on a remote part of the Samsa's land, it was a great place for the three Samsas to meet when they were mere pups. It was like a home away from home, and they could disappear, and their father and mother couldn't find them. When they became adults, Wilder turned it into what he thought a cave for werewolves ought to be, vowing never to take a mate until he found a suitable one. He would revert back to the old ways of hunting and living, if he couldn't find that perfect mate. He had found her, and they mated there, and she had her pups right there in that cave. When winter came that year before he met Adrienne, he had gone there to think and hunt, to try to figure out how to bring the few werewolf packs back together. He never brought any females there, although he had many were-females looking to catch him, because of him being the alpha of all alphas, but his disposition and his desire to be alone all the time wasn't conducive to mating with anyone, until that faithful day he came across Adrienne, after she had hit him with her car. He hadn't thought about a human, because he knew he would have to disclose to them what he was, and he didn't think a human would stay with him with his temperament, and because he had responsibilities as the leader of the werewolves in the Americas. When he met Adrienne, and fell in love with her, he didn't want to lose her, and he convinced her that she would be occupied with their pups and with his brothers until he returned to her. Wilder made himself satisfied by hunting and curing meat in the cave when he was there. It gave him great pleasure to be outside in the fresh air, but he missed that one person who had made his life worth living, Adrienne. Now he felt he had lost that connection to her, since his sons had become grown and were ready to start their own packs. He busied himself with working around the ranch and trying to bring order to the Alaskan werewolves. Maybe it was his fault that Adrienne had become remote, but he thought it was more Lycell's fault. He had occupied her time and had gotten close to her because of all his sons clamoring for her attention. Wilder made a fire and sat down to think. The sun was setting, and the light bounced through the waterfall, and when he looked up he saw a shadow. He would know that form anywhere. It was Adrienne, standing there gazing at him. He dropped the poker from his hand near the fireplace. He just stood there looking at her in awe. "How long have you been standing there?" His voice was husky, his tone velvet passion. "Long enough to see you are the most handsome werewolf alive." Adrienne smiled at him. His heart awakened his body, and he felt unbridled passion he thought he had lost. A hot tide of raw emotion coursed through both of them, and a feeling of satisfaction overcame Wilder. Attraction and desire brought them together, where they moved close to each other. When they met, the heat of their emotions took over, and they kissed. Passion radiated down to the soft core of her body, and she felt Wilder. He was hard, and she surrendered to him, surrendered in his arms, surrendered her body and emotions. He felt electricity move from her to him, and she became weak in his arms, and yielded the burning sweetness she felt for him. It had to be the remoteness of the cave, and knowing this was where they first made love, out of sight of listening ears and prying eyes. Wilder stood in silence after their kiss. Adrienne looked up into his blue eyes, following her from her head to toe. He reached and brought a handful of her hair to his face. He smelled it and smiled. It wasn't a wide smile, because Wilder didn't do wide smiles. It was small, erotic. His eyes lit up and said all that Adrienne wanted to hear, that he wanted her and needed her with him. "Are you hungry?" "Oh, I forgot, I didn't expect you." "How did you get here anyway?" He was full of questions, but he didn't want answers. He took her hand and led her into the den. Her eyes scanned the room. It was like she had remembered it, cozy and warm, bare rugs lying around, homemade furniture made from trees, and a large hearth to warm and cook if needed. "Drayton brought me," she said, looking up at Wilder. "He and the baby. And no, I'm not hungry for food." She placed her hand on his shirt and unbuttoned it until each button was freed and the shirt opened. Then she placed her warm hand over his chest. Her hands moved over the firm, muscular outline of his body and slid over his shoulders. She leaned in and kissed his chest. Her kiss was warm and thoughtful, moving from one muscle to another. The caress of her kiss caused Wilder's body to shiver and burn with need. He glanced down at her. She had been persuasive. Now he wanted her more than he had ever wanted anyone in his life. Moments before she arrived, he had sworn off Adrienne and was ready to carry on as the lone wolf, finding his pleasures where he could. It had been a hard choice to make, and even harder now that she was here with him. "It must have been a sacrifice," he said, breathless. "It's not a sacrifice being with you." Her voice was soft. "I needed to be with you alone, alone with my love, my life." She looked into his eyes. Their eyes locked, blue on green, passion on hunger. "I remembered what you had asked me for, and I came to bring it to you," she said, her head tilted to the side, looking up at him. Reflected light glimmered on her face. Wilder raised his hand and traced his finger down to her lips. How he loved her lips, no more than at this time. "I don't remember asking for anything except you," Wilder said, leaning to bury his face into the warmth of her bosom. She raked her hands through his long, dark, curly hair. "Don't you remember asking for more sons?" Adrienne whispered. "I was just—" "No, you weren't. It was me being selfish," Adrienne admitted. He stopped and took Adrienne by the hand, then sat on the bare rug in front of the fire, and she followed him down and lay on her back as he turned and leaned over her. "How long do you have with me?" "As long as you want me here, and for as long as it takes to give you what you have been waiting for." "What does Lycell have to say about that?" "Since when do you worry about Lycell? You know me well enough that I don't care what Lycell wants. You are the only one that matters to me. You have been the first I've loved, and you have been the last I iced. You will never be cold with me beside you, and inside you," Wilder said with a closed grin, and he leaned over her and kissed her, their lips meeting soft and warm. An outcry of delight fell from Adrienne's lips. His tongue parted her lips, escaping into her mouth, finding pleasure. His demanding lips smothered hers as he coaxed her tongue into his mouth. Wilder's body shuddered from the feeling of a kiss from her. The need rushing through him, and making it known he wanted and needed her by the sudden surge of his manhood. She felt every part of him strain against her body. She felt his skin tingle against hers, and she felt something surge through her that had been lost, and now she discovered that it was always Wilder, and she had been distracted by Lycell's overwhelming desires and Drayton's good and kind nature. There was only one that she truly and emotionally loved, and that was the lone werewolf, Wilder. He needed her now, and she would be there for him. It was as if it was the first time they had been together. "It's been months since I've been with you. I hope I can last." "I have no doubt that you can last, and if you don't, then we will have to go at it all night and the next until you are spent," Adrienne said as she unbuttoned his jeans and helped him pull them.